Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
The single best idea with a bonus today outside Boston. Jurrien Timmer will join us on his Babson. Let's get right to it. I think so much a single best idea is the Fed parlor game. I think it's very evident that I'm not a fan of the parlor game, the WIRP function, and, you know, the gaming and the betting of what the Fed will do. I guess a lot of people care. I don't care. I'm sort of more interested in the real economy. Andrew Hollenhorst and the team at Citigroup have been absolutely brilliant of focusing on the real economy. Months ago, quarters ago, they said, calm down, we're going to hire for longer. They nailed that call. Now they've turned around and they said, not only are we going lower with the Fed, but because of the real economy, we're going to persistently grind down interest rates. Brian Whalen at TCW today was brilliant with the same vector of disinflation and lower Fed rates. Here, Hollenhorst of Citigroup.
If you just focus on 4.2% unemployment, that's not a bad unemployment rate if we could just stay at 4.2%. The problem is, like you're saying, all of the evidence is that unemployment rate is going to continue to move higher, and it may move higher in a non-linear way. I think that's a real concern. There's been a lot of focus on the idea that, well, the hiring rates come down, the layoff rate hasn't come up yet. And the yet I would emphasize because in every cycle, that's what we see. The hiring rate comes down, then the layoff rate comes up, and that's when you get that nonlinearity.
Andrew Hollenhorst there on the curvature of the unemployment rate. We talked about a 5% unemployment rate not being the same as a 4.9% statistic as well. Shout out to Dan Ives, a trooper in the late evening of Seoul, Korea. Dan Ives briefing us today on the Apple meeting to come. We talked about the chip, the A18 chip. I'm very much a believer that all the fanboy stuff is secondary to the actual 3-nanometer technology in this case. And I think the chip will dazzle, whether the phone sells or not, I don't know, but I think the chip will dazzle as well. Thanks to Dan Ives for stepping in his late-night Seoul, Korea as well. One thing that is certain is there is a debate tomorrow. David Gura will be in Philadelphia. Balance of Power, Joe Matthew, Kayleigh Lines, 8 p.m., starting for a 9 p.m. debate. I have no idea why it's on at 9 p.m. I aggressively disagree with that. It's worse than sports. It should be on earlier so not kids, but, you know, teenagers can watch it without being brain dead at 9 p.m. But anyways, there'll be good coverage. We were lucky, and I got some heat on this on Twitter. People are like, you know, why are you talking to a guy from Arkansas? French Hill is a banker, a businessman. He's had a payroll to meet in Arkansas. It's the 2nd Congressional District. I think it's north of Little Rock. We talked about the map of that. French Hill, Republican from Arkansas, on his candidate.
I don't think so. No, I think and this has been very consistent, I think, with President Trump. I mean, he sticks with this messaging that he has, that he believes so strongly in, and I don't see him moving it. And I don't, you know, I think some would argue that Vice President Harris is moving to the middle with some of her proposals, but they're like from the most radical left fringe to slightly less left, not per se to the middle. She uses a lot of press release buzzwords, you know, child care, lowering taxes for working families and things like that. But when you get into the details, I don't think so. I'm thinking she needs to look like she's centrist, that she's not Bernie Sanders, that she's somewhere to the far right of Bernie Sanders, that she is smart and she's up on the issues, and that she's got a sense of humor, but looks presidential. I think it's a big lift for her, but I think that's the main issue for her.
French Hill just riveting in, not once but twice, 3 times in that conversation. He made clear he feels that the former president will not move to the middle, that he will stay on MAGA themes, if you will. Good to have French Hill in today. Last week, I believe it was the Wall Street Journal, did a college ranking, and it had the usual victims lined up at the top. And sandwiched between number 1 and number 2 was Babson College. There is no one in the game more affiliated with Babson than Jurrien Timmer, of Fidelity. And of course, we say good September to 92.9 FM and all that's going on in Boston. Babson is a leafy suburban event. It had an international student body. Before that was cool or required, whatever you want to say. Here is a gentleman from an island, a Dutch island in the Caribbean, on his first day at Babson.
I was born and raised on the small island of Aruba, and I wanted to go to college in the States. My brothers went in Holland, as is typical for Dutch families in Aruba. And my father did some business with people in the Boston area, and they all told him, send your kid to Babson. And we went and we looked. I bought a suit for the first time to interview, and I saw a young man walking down the campus with a rolled up Wall Street Journal under his arm. And I'm like, that was the image that I wanted for myself. And so I went to Babson in 1981. It was already an international kind of oriented college at the time. 8% of the student body was international. Now, of course, it's much more. But it has always provided that intimacy of a small business school that is still world-class at the same time. And as an international student, that really fit the mold for me.
Jurrien Timmer, arguably the greatest technician in economics, finance, and investment. I can't say enough about the sophistication of the charts he develops for Fidelity. Many of them are widely available at the Fidelity website. Jurrien Timmer of Fidelity. An eventful week forward here after the jobs report. Thank you to our team for just an incredible Friday. We move on YouTube. Subscribe to Bloomberg Podcasts on terrestrial traditional radio 99.1 FM in Boston, our flagship station in New York City. Bloomberg 1130 AM in Boston, 92.9 FM on Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and on Apple Podcasts. This is Single Best.